Sometimes they said O, and sometimes they said E. And that's the straight line that we today in Arabic call alif. Alif. The next sound they had was like this. Kind of looks like, look close at it now. What does that look like? Well, you might think, oh, I guess it kind of looks like the horns of a cow. And then let's put his head right underneath there. Horns of a cow. Head is here. All right. This picture is Ba. And it happens to be the first letter of Baqarah. And Baqarah means a cow. How about that? Alif Ba. And notice that this dot is below the line. I want to make another one similar to that one and see what you think of this. Okay, similar, but let's don't put anything here. Let's put a dot above. Now, the time here, right now in South Africa, happens to be noon. And guess where the sun is? It's straight above us. That's the sun up there, you see? And it's noontime, isn't it? So, when it's noontime, you would expect to see the sun be right up there. And that's it. And that is called noon, by the way. That's the name of this letter, noon. So we had a below, and we called it Ba. And here at noontime, we called it noon. And it's pronounced noon. I'm going to draw another one now. Like this. This time I'll put two dots. That's Ta. Ta. Ba. Noon. Ta. Now let's do one more. One more. And we'll put three dots. See the dots? And we're going to do them like a little pyramid. There's the other one will be right there. Now what do you think that is? That's Tha. Not for three. But it is Tha. Tha. Three dots, Tha. Two dots, Ta. One dot up on top. At noontime, that's noon. And that one is Ba. Can you imagine this? Now let's see what we got. Alif, Ba, noon, Ta, Tha. Now in the order that they normally come, we have Alif, Ba, skip over, Ta, Tha, noon comes later. And let us have what's called the line of demarcation right about here. Now what we put above the line will be our characters. And let's put some characters here. Okay. And this is, we're just kind of making some notations here, going along, and making this and that. Not really worrying about it. But you see, now look, at the bottom here, this is the line of demarcation. Now whatever comes below that line, then we'll consider that to be a tail. Because some of the letters in Arabic language have tails. But if they connect to another letter, then the tail is gone, and it moves and connects then to the letter next to it. What are the letters that have tails? So let's consider that. We're going to start with this fresh, clear the dirt off here a little bit. Now watch this, watch. This is a letter called Ain. Can you say Ain? Well, you might say, we don't have a sound like that, but in Texas we do. We say, I ain't gonna do it. So this is the curve here at the top, kind of like this, and the big tail comes down to the bottom. But when it connects to something else, then the tail doesn't do that. It goes this way. See, huh? I suppose it had an aleph with it. That would be Ain Aleph. See that? Ain Aleph. Pronounced ah, ah. Ah, got it? Let's do another one. Let's consider, for instance, now, the letter Sin. Sin has 3 points that come up, then a tail comes down like this. See this tail down here? That's Sin. If it connects to another letter, then this tail would be gone. I'm going to erase it with my shoes. See that? And now let's connect it to another letter. Sin Aleph. Sa. Sa. Look at that. Now it has a sister letter called sheen. Now let's go ahead and put the tail back down like this. 3 dots. 1, 2, 3. Got it? Now that's sh. And if we remove the tail, connect it now to the aleph, it's sha. Now had we connected it to some of the other letters, it would have a different sound, which we're going to be learning about more in the programs that come up. But just to give you a little taste of it, I'll remove the aleph and connect it to the wow. The wow. And that becomes, wow is pronounced oo, so that would be shoe. Shoe. See my shoe? It's fun using the English that we already know to learn another language, like Arabic and English. Well, let's go back to our program already in progress and enjoy more about Bridge to Faith. That was Arabic and English, and now we want to talk about somebody's particular Bridge to Faith. We're here in South Africa in the state park called Little Falls. I'm Yusuf Estes, and I wanted to take this chance to tell you the story about someone who came to faith after he learned about something from the Quran. What he said was that he always wondered about believing in God, because he said, well, with all the scientific study, it might indicate that there could be life on other planets. And if there were life on other planets, is this discussed in any of the holy books? And the answer he came up with was no, he didn't find that anywhere. Until he met a Muslim and he was asking the question to him. And the Muslim said, well, I never thought about that before, but let's look at it. They began reading some of the translations of what the Quran was saying. One of the things that amazed him is how the Quran itself begins. It begins by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Right then and there he stopped. He said, what does that actually mean? He said, well, I think it means something like, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All the praise is to Allah, Lord of the worlds. He said, is that Lord of the world, or is that Lord of the worlds? Worlds, it's plural, Alameen. The man stopped and he said, do you mean to tell me that 1400 years ago, living out in the desert, that Prophet Muhammad came up with something like this? Yes. Yes, that's how it is. But Muhammad didn't come up with the Quran. He is only narrating to us what he heard. And he heard this from the angel Gabriel. But how could it be? How could it be that 1400 years ago somebody is coming up with something like this? Considering, too, that Prophet Muhammad actually, he was illiterate. He didn't know how to read. He didn't know how to write. He sure didn't know anything about telescopes, space travel. This would have been preposterous to consider something like that. So how is it now? How is it that here in the Quran it's talking about the plural of the worlds? And if there was more than one world, if there was more than one race or species of people or deities out there, how would that be? Well, he has to rule out the plural deities because there could only be one God, especially it must be the one who reveals this verse, who said he's the Lord of the worlds. None of the other religions have such a thing, he said. And this, he told me personally, is how he came to faith, by understanding that the God, the Lord, the one who created everything, even provided for that. So if you ever did encounter something or somebody from another world, you already know who the Lord of the worlds is. I found that to be an amazing story. If you'd like to read more stories like that or watch other videos like this, you can visit our website at bridgetofaith.com. You're watching Bridge to Faith. We're going to be talking now about a rock. A rock. We posed the question earlier, and if God could do anything, if there was a God, and God could do anything, could he in fact make a rock so big that nothing could move it? Good question. Well, if you said yes, he could, you'd have a problem right away, because somebody'd say, okay, you're saying then that he couldn't move it either.
Now you got something God can't do. He can't make the rock so big he can't move it, or he can't move a rock because he made it too big or too heavy. What are you going to say about that? Well, I found that answer myself after coming into Islam. I was amazed that Islam had answers for such questions, sometimes philosophical, sometimes a little bit silly, but still, Islam had the answer. The answer to the question, could God make a rock so big that nothing could move it, is absolutely yes, he can. That's the definitive answer, yes. Because there isn't anything that God is unable to do. There are things that he restricts himself from doing. He doesn't do some things because then he wouldn't be God anymore. For instance, God would never die. God doesn't die. He's always alive. He's the eternal living. So he's not like his creation. Another thing God wouldn't do, he wouldn't lie, he wouldn't cheat, he wouldn't be unfair in his judgment because he is the God. So he would be all truthful. Another thing is he'd have to have full knowledge of everything that he's created. He'd be all knowledgeable. And another thing he would do, he would be the loving. For sure he'd be the loving. In the Quran of Islam, I found all of these words. Al-Wadud, it means the loving. Al-Alim, it means that he is the all-knower. Al-Hakim, he is the judge, the ultimate judge. Al-Adl, he is the fair. So he's truthful. He is the truth. He is the knowledge. But what about this rock? What about this rock? Could he make a rock so big nothing can move it? And I already said yes. How? Because we say that he created the universe and everything in it. Huwa alladhi khalaqa samawati. He is the one who created the heavens, all of the heavens. Wa fil ard, and whatever's in the earth. He is al-Khalaq, the only creator. But he's also al-Bari, the one who can change the creation and make it into other things. He could make this rock big if he wanted to, or he could make it smaller if he wanted to. And he does that really with the things that we see around us every day. But what about making something so big he couldn't move it? Well, the funny part about it is, you're talking about things in the creation. And Allah owns the creation. He controls the creation. And there isn't anything that he cannot do with his creation. But don't compare him to the creation. We are the ones who move stuff. Human beings and plants, animals, all the creation, we move around. Granted, plants don't move very far. They just kind of wiggle back and forth, but they move. Anything alive has some kind of movement to it. So we start estimating that God is like that. But in fact, this is not God. You don't compare him to the creation. And he doesn't move things like we do. I have to go get some kind of a lever or a stick or something and get underneath there and kind of push it and turn it and try to push it. I need a lever, a fulcrum, and a source of energy. Allah doesn't need any of that because he just speaks the word and it happens. He says be, only in Arabic it's kun. Kun fayakun, be and it is. So the answer is yes, he can make a rock so big nothing in the universe, nothing in the creation could ever move it. But he can always move it. He just says kun, be or don't be. Either way, he's in control. Makes me feel good to know that somebody's in control out there that's not like us humans. Much better. And that's a part of our Bridge to Faith. Well, for Bridge to Faith, here in South Africa, this is Yusuf Estes telling you until next time, enjoy our websites, bridgetofaith.com, arabichandenglish.com, oh yeah, and our science project called scienceislam.com. I gotta go get rid of a rock. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Bridge to Faith. Remember our website, bridgetofaith.com. Until next time, peace. Salam alaikum.